All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about a massive blind spot in medicine, one that impacts more than half the people on the planet. For way too long, women's health has been treated like some big, unsolvable mystery. But the truth? It's much simpler. And honestly, way more shocking than that. The whole system is broken. And we're going to show you exactly why.
So you gotta ask, right? Why all the confusion? Why does it take an average of 7 to 10 years to diagnose conditions that affect millions upon millions of women? Well, it turns out it's not because women's bodies are just too complicated. Nope, it's because the very system we rely on to understand them is fundamentally deeply flawed. Get this number is just staggering. Less than 1%. That's the amount of healthcare research and innovation funding that goes toward female-specific conditions. Less than 1%. For literally half the population. That single number tells you almost everything you need to know. And if you think that's bad, wait till you hear this. It wasn't until 1993, that women were legally required to be included in clinical research studies in the US. No, that is not a typo. We're talking about a time most of us remember very clearly. For decades, medicine was basically just studying half of us. So look, this isn't just about being fair. We're talking about a massive gender data gap that has life or death consequences. I mean, think about it. When your research completely ignores half the population, you end up with a medical system that's flying with one eye closed. And here's where it gets really weird, the paradox. Women are the majority of the population. They make most of the healthcare decisions, not just for themselves, but for their families. They even live longer than men, but they spend a way bigger chunk of those extra years in poor health, suffering from chronic illness. How does that even add up? Well, the bottom line is, the system was never built for women. For centuries, when medical textbooks and research papers talked about the human body, what they really meant was the male body. Female physiology, with all its hormonal cycles, was just shoved to the side as too messy or too complicated to study. And all that neglect led to this one huge, dangerous idea that's still floating around today, that women are basically just small men. But scientifically, that could not be more wrong. The differences are profound, and they go all the way down to our cells. I mean, just look at this. It's wild how different the physiology is. Men tend to have more of those power-based, fast-twitch muscle fibers. Women, more endurance-based fibers. For men, a heart attack is often that classic Hollywood heart attack, a big blockage in a big artery, the widowmaker. But for women, it's often these tiny blockages scattered through smaller blood vessels, which causes totally different symptoms. Even our cells work differently. And that right there, that's the data gap in action. Because the male heart attack was studied as the default, a woman's symptoms, things like nausea, extreme fatigue, back pain, get labeled as atypical. Just stop and think about that for a second. How can the way 51% of the population experiences a life-threatening event be called atypical? It makes absolutely no sense. And this data gap isn't just academic. It creates a real dangerous culture of dismissal. This is a real quote. A senior doctor told a trainee that her patient, a woman with a list of very real but vague symptoms, was just a whiny woman. It's a horrible thing to say, I know, but it shines a light on this deep-seated bias, where women's pain is often just not believed. Okay, so how do we start to fix this mess? Well, we can begin with one of the most powerful tools we have, something that's been completely misunderstood for centuries, the menstrual cycle. It's time we stop thinking of it as a curse or an inconvenience and start seeing it for what it really is, a vital sign. We're taught the menstrual cycle is all about making babies, but it's so much more than that. Leading experts are now calling it the fifth vital sign, right up there with your blood pressure and heart rate. It's literally a monthly report card on your overall health. It tells you about your stress levels, your nutrition, everything. Okay, let's break it down really simply. You've basically got two halves of the cycle. In the first half, estrogen is the star. This is usually when women feel their absolute best, more energy, more focus. Then, in the second half, after ovulation, progesterone takes over, and that hormonal shift affects everything, from your mood, to your energy levels, to your metabolism. And here's the most important part.
Predictability is key. Now, everyone's normal is a little different, but your cycle should be consistent for you. If it's all over the place, if the pain is debilitating, or if it's just gone missing, that is not something you just put up with. It is your body screaming at you that something is wrong.
So what happens when those red flags, those messages from your body are totally ignored? Well, the fallout from these diagnostic delays and dismissals can be absolutely devastating, leading to years and years of pain and suffering that was completely unnecessary. This right here, this is the heartbreaking reality for way too many women. This is a real 17-year journey to get a diagnosis for endometriosis, a condition that 1 in 10 women have. Her agonizing pain was dismissed over and over again, misdiagnosed as gastritis. They even took out her appendix for no reason. By the time they finally figured it out, she was 30, and the disease was stage 4. And the most tragic part, her story isn't rare. It's incredibly common. And then you have something like PCOS. It's one of the top reasons for irregular cycles. But here's the thing. Everyone thinks it's a fertility problem, but it's actually a metabolic problem, often driven by insulin resistance. Which means an early diagnosis isn't a curse, it's a gift. It's a huge heads up that lets you make changes now to protect yourself from really serious stuff like diabetes and heart disease down the road.
So, the system is slowly starting to catch up. But in the meantime, what can you do? The most powerful thing you can do is arm yourself with knowledge. Understanding your own body, your own normal, is the first and most critical step.
Okay, let's boil this all down. Here's what you need to walk away with. First, your menstrual cycle is a vital sign. Start tracking it. Second, pain that stops you from living your life is not normal, period. Irregularity means your body is trying to tell you something. Remember, women are not small men. And finally, and this is maybe the most important thing, you have to fight for yourself as hard as you would for your child, your partner, or your best friend. Do not let them brush you off.
So I'll leave you with this one question. If your cycle really is a report card on your health, a monthly update on how you're doing, what is your report card telling you? And more importantly, are you listening?